I was picking up houses, 3 bedroom, and the tradition in Detroit is 1 bath, whereas here in Colorado, you've got to have that second bath. But in Detroit,
Mhm.
they're fine with waiting in line to go to the bathroom, I think. So the standard is 3 bedroom, 1 bath. And I was like, okay, fine. And I could buy them for $60,000.
Yeah.
You can't get a tough shed in your backyard for that here in Colorado. So
Yeah.
the thing that I had never heard about was this wholesale market where the cash flows are like 10%, 15% a month. That sounds very attractive, but the downside to that is your home pretty much stays valued at 60,000. And you practically, with every turnover, you have to rebuild the house because the tenants are just, they live roughly. And it's a culture, quite honestly, that I don't understand very well. And the one nice thing about investing in rental real estate is there's 1,001 ways to make money. And just because what works for me might not work for you, or you might have something that you like better. I really love the 3 bedroom, 2 bath rental. And I absolutely love JWB's product of the ranch style 3 bedroom, 2 bath rental. Because as I've gotten older, the knees are getting creakier, and having a ranch style home is a very nice thing that it will appeal to the broadest market. Handicapped people love it, old people like it, young people like it. I also like the culture of the tenants that JWB works with, in that they've grown up in these neighborhoods that JWB invests in. That's not the situation here in Colorado, where you have a majority of people who have moved here from other states. So there's a lot of demographic mix in Jacksonville, a lot of diversity in the employment base. What you don't want is a boom bust state. In Phoenix, they took off in the 80s because of the semiconductor industry. That's what brought me there, and that's what fueled a lot of their growth. But as time went on, and they started offshoring semiconductor manufacturing to Taiwan and other areas, the demand for that housing went into a bust situation. So those are just some things to keep an eye on, but those are the demographic things that I think speak well for Jacksonville, because you have that Amazon headquarters there, the military. You also have that investment in downtown Jacksonville. I thought it was very interesting, the history of downtown being so owned by the Southern Baptist Church.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to sell these things. One of the big stories in Denver was our downtown was a slum. It was Skid Row. All
Yeah.
the drunks were down there, the homeless. And then all of a sudden, the city council said, you know, I think we'll build a brand new baseball stadium in this area. And people thought, what are you, crazy? The suburbs were like, but the people who go to the baseball game are out here. The
Hmm.
city council said, no, we think we're going to build it here. And it was just like that movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. So I'm very excited to see the revitalization that I know will happen in Jacksonville, just like it happened in Denver. And those are the bigger picture kind of things that I think as a real estate investor, you need to pay attention to.
Leslie, you are just amazing in so many ways, shapes, and forms. And and I just love speaking to you because as I'm listening to all of these learning lessons that you've been through, I'm just thinking how courageous you are to get started in real estate. Takes a lot of courage to stub your toe a couple of times and then get back on the horse. Takes a lot of courage. And there are so many learning lessons. I think you have gone from a place of kind of like, we'll just call it raw courage in the beginning, with you stepping in and helping your friend out and becoming that first accidental landlord, to now it is strategic. It's strategic
Yep.
in the market. It's strategic with the team. It's strategic in the type of housing that you have found to be very successful, and also strategic with the type of renters that you're finding that are going to be successful. Strategic about the jobs, the economics. You're strategic about downtown. So I got a bunch that we can talk about. But first, I wanted to ride this train about downtown because it is sometimes feels like I'm sharing this vision to a deaf audience sometimes when we're talking about how important
I was listening.
hitching your wagon to a successful downtown is as an owner of single family rental properties. Because, people talk often about how I want to buy a single family rental property, but I want it to be next to that supermarket that I really like, or that shopping center that I really like, or something along those lines. And what I keep saying to people is, yeah, guys, I guess that makes sense. But if you really want to be in the path of progress, go find a revitalized downtown. So, Leslie, I wanted just to hear a little bit more about your experience, and if you can relate it to what it's like to have owned properties surrounding downtown. What has happened to rents? What has happened to home prices surrounding downtown, as well as median incomes and quality of life? Can you share a little bit more about that? Because that's what's going to be happening in Jacksonville.
Exactly. Well, when I first was transferred to Denver in 1998, they had really just started these conversions to lofts in these old warehouse buildings. And the loft would be like 300,000. And I thought, who would ever go down there? Now those same lofts are 1.5 million,
Mhm.
because there used to be in the training, and forgive me for saying this, but they would say, find where the gay people want to live, because they will go in and revitalize a neighborhood and make it hip. And a lot of the gay people were going in and fixing up these old homes and making them just cute, and they were preserving them. And now, I mean, gay people can live everywhere now, so you don't have to follow that. But it was just kind of like looking at the bigger picture to see what the revitalization is. But I also think that you need to look at the demographic trends, because young people like to live with other young people. Old people like to live with other old people. And my advice is look where the young people are going. And in Jacksonville, the young people, even some of the JWB employees, are going downtown, because now you have more things to do than just go to a Southern Baptist church service.
Exactly. I think it's go to a place where people are going to spend money. Because when
Right.
people are going to spend money on housing and going out to bars and restaurants and those types of amenities, and young people tend to do that more often, that's where people are going to show up to receive that money in the form of businesses and more housing and mixed use. And it's
And they
just so
want to be
wonderful.
close to where everything is going on. It's interesting, this new generation, because I'm a baby boomer. And we were raised to just nose to the grindstone, work hard, save your money, get that, good secure job, and buy that house in the suburbs with your car. The new kids, they've been through some economic cycles. Maybe they've seen their parents go through foreclosure or a bankruptcy. And so they realize more, I think, than any other generation, how short life is. So what you'll see are these kids will spend more on experiences than like buying the house. And there's always a reason that people rent. And a lot of times I want those people as my tenants, because they never have trouble paying the rent. Or if they do, they'll just get a roommate.
Interesting. I was just reading an article about that's highlighting certain things that you're talking about here, and it's talking about home price affordability. It's a little bit of a segue from what we talked about last week, which is that median incomes are outpacing rents in Jacksonville over the last year, which I know home price affordability is a major concern for all of us, but that's a good sign that median incomes are outpacing rents for the last year, because that means it becomes a little bit more affordable. And when you are in a place where median incomes are going to continue to rise, rent and home prices can still rise and people can afford them because median incomes go up. But what this was specifically talking about that's related to what Leslie's saying is that there's a bifurcation when it comes to rent price affordability. And because more and more folks are choosing to rent that have higher incomes over $75,000, it's actually creating a renter class that is that has much more ability to afford the rents. Now, on the flip side, those lower income rents have not the incomes in the lower bifurcated section, we'll say there, those have not been going up. So it's much more challenging for those who make low incomes to afford their rent. So this isn't to say median incomes are going up across the board, but what it's highlighting is what Leslie's talking about. because people are choosing to rent and they value experiences, they have the ability to rent, that these would make great renters for us in a downtown setting or somewhere around where amenities are housed today and will be housed in the future.
Got it. We want to show you the Pac-Man, right? GC, what are we looking at here?
So, Leslie obviously is very strategic in her real estate investments, and she understands our strategy at JWB. She has taken on this strategy and it's done wonderful things for her. And what I am talking about, the strategy simply comes down to all 5 profit centers working in cohesion. And when you subscribe to a theory like that, it's easy to say, you know what, I don't need to go and buy the wholesale property in a market like Detroit. I don't need to go and spend $60,000 on a property over here. I'm going to get excited about spending $250 on a property in Jacksonville. And the reason is because when you manage money like I do, and when you see success stories like Leslie's, here is how the money is made. It's this percentage return on investment by profit center. Breaks down 4 of the 5 profit centers. The only one I leave out is inflation hedging and profiting, because that one's a little complicated to calculate. So in all 4 profit centers, what we find is that this Pac-Man symbol shows up each and every time we break a client portfolio down. What it shows you is that over the long haul, what you're going to find is that the biggest contributor to return on investment is home price appreciation. That's why the team and the market you choose is so important. The team, because the team needs to be there with you to make it enjoyable so that you last in this investment. You need to last 10 years or more. And the market is so important, obviously, because that drives home price appreciation. And that is going to be the biggest way that we're able to make money for you. It's going to make net rental income and cash flow, and some of these bigger buzzwords that relatively novice investors tend to flock to, pale in comparison. And Leslie, your experience is very much the same. About 75%. It's like a true Pac-Man here. This is like 75%.
This is the exact Pac-Man.
Yeah, we say 60 to 80% of your returns will come from home price appreciation. Leslie, you're another shining example of that happening.
This is what gives me the confidence to go into debt to invest, is seeing that Pac-Man. Because if you were to do the same graphic for my remaining 2 rentals that I have in Detroit, the net rental income would be most of the graph. The home price appreciation is tiny.
And if it was a bar chart, it would be a much bigger bar in Jacksonville for total profits and it'd be a much smaller bar in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. Jacksonville's just a much better, more rounded market, and your property management team is the best I've ever seen.
You like to hear
I'm
that?
not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna let that. I'm gonna let that marinate. I love that right there.